My name is Denise. I live in England, London, Hackney, amongst many other things. I am a mother of 2 sons and grandmother of 5. Okay, so that's my brief introduction. Okay, so here I go. I'm just going to get on with it. All right, so who am I? Like I said, amongst other things, I am also a psychotherapist, author, mentor, inspiration life coach, and supervisor. Okay, so just to say a little bit about how I became some of these things. At 18 years old, I made a decision. It was a decision to become a mother. At the time, it felt like my life was going nowhere fast. And the idea of being a mother felt really attractive. And I really felt it would give me some sense of meaning, purpose, focus, and direction in my life then. And when I had my son, I promised him that this will be the best of starts for him. My start wasn't very good, and it would be a new start for myself. Okay, that decision took me on a journey. Sadly, by the time my son was 3 years old, the happy families I was trying to create fell apart. It was very devastating to myself. I also experienced what was then called a nervous breakdown. Where I couldn't sleep. My thinking became all crazy. I had an eating disorder at the time that got way out of hand. I just felt like I was losing my mind, and I got real scared because I didn't bring my son into the world to then lose his mother. So I went to the doctors. I was told like it was a nervous breakdown. I had depression. I later go on to redefine that as a spiritual breakthrough. That happened at that time. It was for a good reason that I didn't know then. When I went to the doctors, I was offered medication, but for me, that didn't feel like the answer. Not too long after that, I came upon an article in a magazine that was talking about a therapy group for women with eating disorders. I signed up for that and got on it. And it was during that experience, that the eating disorder I had was bulimia, and bulimia or all eating disorders is hard to crack. It comes under mental ill health. But during that time in therapy, having that space to talk, having people hear me on all the different levels, realizing that some of the experience I went through was far than normal and was indeed traumatic, hence why I had an eating disorder, amongst other things, all that became very clear to me. And it was during that time that I made another decision that I wanted to do this, because that gave me so much freedom. And within a couple of months, I wasn't even, being bulimic anymore. So I made a decision, and that decision changed the course of my life. And then I went on the road to becoming a therapist. So I just want to say, decisions determines destiny, for better and for worse. All right, I just want to read a quote because it speaks on how my life journey, my healing, what my healing was about, and as a therapist, how I work with others to get them to that place of self-healing. And I think this quote sums up the work. It's a quote on the subject of authenticity, and it says, "Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen." And that's by Brené Brown. When you've been through trauma, it knocks you out of shape. You then have to take on another persona to survive. You've gone into survivor mode. So the person that you were and could have been gets arrested, get left in the past, as you go into the business of surviving. So that's what my book, Back to Love, is about. It's about, my healing journey. psychological, spiritual, and racial, and about my decision to become a therapist, you know, and the experience I went through to do that. What else? And yeah, it's about basically, you know, becoming my true self and showing up as I am. Okay, so I'm just going to read the back of the book so you get a feel of Back to Love, which I wrote in 2005, but it wasn't published until 2021. So it says, Back to Love. Back to Love is an autobiography that tells the story of a teenager's decision to have a child and the direction that decision swiftly takes her, a journey of emotional healing and self-rediscovery. The text reads like a detective story, an inner world detective story, as she begins to uncover and take more seriously the past experiences that had truly shaped her. Back to Love is therefore a triumph over adversity story, a simple yet extraordinary and deeply felt life story that pays homage and testimony to how past wrongs could be righted and how basic human and children rights and dreams can be recovered and made in this time possible. The main plot of the story rests on the young woman's decision to have a child, which also amounts to a decision for change and all that came to consequently entail. The decision to change, as well as its processes, also tells its own story. And it tells that story, especially, I talk a lot about the different therapies I went through as part of my healing, both individual and group therapy. Okay, so that's Back to Love. And just to end, you know, Back to Love with a quote from Frederick Douglass. It says, "It is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men." I absolutely agree with that. Yes, it's easier to build strong children, you know, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. Back to Love, and my life and my life journey is a testimony to that. Okay, my second book, this one, Inner Life Rights, a manifesto for reconnecting to love, renewing your mind and radiating your light. This book was released April last month. Okay, so I think the following quote sums up the basic theme running through this book. So I'll share this quote now. I love quotes. It's an ancient African proverb, and it says, "Whatever happens to the individual happens to the whole group. Whatever happens to the whole group happens to the individual." So how did this book come into being? So a friend of mine's read Back to Love, and she said when she read it, she enjoyed it. Not that it's, you know, you can call it an enjoyable book because it's a healing story, but there's joy in it. She said after she read it, knowing me more from this time, she was looking for something more, and that kind of planted a seed in my mind, and it made me to decide that I was going to make, you know, my books and call them Back to Love series. So this is a Back to Love series, book 2. Because like I said, I wrote and finished Back to Love in 2005 when I was 40. I'm 58 now, so a big time delay between the two books. So Inner Life Rights brings you up to speed where I am on my journey. I see life very much as a journey, and in my healing and in my work. So the theme running through Inner Life Rights is on the theme of the personal and the collective. Another major theme in the book is the Asian idea of us going within to know thyself, you know, which is and was considered the greatest education and knowledge of all. We've really lost ourselves in the world today. Fake has become real, and real has become something that people feels, you know, ashamed of, and have to come to therapy to learn to be. Okay, on the theme of the personal and collective, I speak very much to the individual, you know, and where changes can be made there. And I speak very much on the subject of the Black community and where changes and healing can happen there. And very much I speak to us as a race, the human race. So though a lot of, you know, the writing is coming from my experience, and I'm a Black, you know, I'm a Black African woman. It's also for everybody who's really interested in making a difference in this crazy world at this crazy time. And also it's a book that helps us to move from survival. We're not just here to survive, we're here to thrive, you know. So these are also some of the themes in the book. So very much a book about self and societal transformation. So it's far from a light reading. And you can open it at any place and read from it. You don't have to read it chronologically. And any bit you read from any area of the book, you know, I believe it will be enlightening and enwisening. It's a collection of essays, which I call hersays, of poems, and of, you know, heartfelt and deeply thought through reflections, especially from what I've learned being on this journey since Back to Love, and from the decision I made to have a child. It's very much about learning from experience, because experience is our greatest teacher. Dare we learn from it, take the time to learn from it. You know, and when we don't learn, history repeats, you know, whether it's personal in our life or historical as a Black people or as a human race, history repeats. You know, history as a subject is something that we have to look to learn from, not look to glorify bad behavior. And as a Jamaican saying goes, when we don't learn, you know, who don't hear must feel. Okay, just a quote, another quote. Okay, from Malcolm, when he says, you know, this is the time we're at. We must learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish together as fools. So I'm going to just read the back then of Inner Life Right, so you can get a feel of it. So it says, psychotherapist and inspirational life coach Denise James presents a compassionate, clear-speaking, visionary text as a call from the future to make changes now to ensure a sustainable future for humanity. This book shines a much-needed light on this world's current dark night of the soul, and its inner light guides us to new life-affirming behaviors and mindsets. The author addresses the human condition from the root up and encourages new ways of being, seeing, living and loving that would lead to true and lasting change. The overarching message of Inner Life Rights is that we can all make a difference, and that unprecedented doesn't have to mean bad, only that it is time for a new paradigm shift to a more humane and just world. It's that time. Where you can buy my book, all right, and where you can find about a bit more about my work. So my website is called innersideout.net. You can find more about me there, about my work, about my my books, and my books. I've got excerpts of my books on my website, so you can get a taste of the book. Also, I do a blog on the website. You'll get all the links for my blog, for my YouTube channel, my Linktree, my Instagram, where you can buy my books, it's Amazon Foils, Waterstones, Afori Books, the Black Book Collective, and all book selling outlets worldwide. You can also Google me and Denise James, and more information and as well as those will come up about me. And if you buy my books, please review so that we can get more traffic coming through, so the books can get in the hands of those who really need it, and especially those who, you know, don't have much confidence in therapy. They're great self-help therapeutic tools. That's the reason why I'm writing and kind of branching out in that area.